Alrighty, in this video we're going to kind of expand on the previous building. So right now we have it set up, you press B to go into build mode, press F to place down, all your foundations and such, then B to get out of build mode. I want to make it so we can cycle through the actual, the meshes that we're trying to place down. So that way we can use that in conjunction with snapping whenever we kind of get to that point. So I just want to get that set up for the time being, so we have a way to, change methods or change the meshes, and then add in the functionality to control how those change later on. So this is all going to be happening inside of the building visual, because that's what we use to place them down. So currently we just have, you can ignore the test mesh here. I was doing a quick test to see if how static meshes appeared as view properties. But right now we're just setting up a building class, and that's obviously the one we want to spawn. So now we want to change it to, instead of using the building class, kind of, let's see here. We have this building mesh here. And we basically are just hiding and unhiding that build mesh. That's all we're doing. So we can take that mesh and we can have an array of static meshes and simply cycle through them using just some form of index. So we're going to set that up now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this view property here. And we're going to also have, well, sorry, not also, I was looking at this. We're going to have a T array of U static mesh. And that's pretty much it. Then we'll just have an index, and we want to iterate through that array. So I'm going to go ahead and forward declare just in case. And let's call this one building meshes. And then we want our index. So U int 8, building meshes index. Set over to our constructor, and we're going to set this to 0 to start with. Alright, once we have that, we can close out of the editor, compile, and relaunch. Alrighty, once we're back in here, we're going to go ahead and reload our building visual class. And here we have our building meshes. So, first one I'm just going to do is going to be the foundation. Then the second one is going to be the wall. So those are the only two I have right now, but those are really the only two we actually have to worry about testing with for the time being. So I'm going to close this on down, or not close it down, but save it and head back over here, because now we want to set up the changing. So to begin, for begin play, what I want to do automatically by just start is I want to set the build mesh to use our initial actual static mesh and building meshes. Sorry, my words are getting a little twisted here. So what I'm going to do is if building meshes at index 0, or we can just use building meshes index, make sure that's valid. We want to do build mesh, set static mesh, and we want to use the building meshes at building meshes index. So that way, it's just going to assign it to the first one anyways, so it's kind of doing the same thing, but if you decide to change the order over here, it allows you to do that. You don't have to worry about syncing up the build mesh to use the first index of whatever this may be. So it's just kind of one of the things to take care of it for you. So now I want to have a public function. It's going to be void cycle mesh. Let's go ahead and create the definition of that. And I swear, people in this house talk absurdly loud, and it's only when I'm recording. So I don't know if you can hear it. Anyways, so now we want to make sure this gets incremented, but not beyond the array length. So what I usually do is if increment building meshes index is greater than the index of building meshes, well, the length. So we're going to do building meshes.num. Then we are beyond its range. So from that point, I want to reset building meshes index to 0. And if that's not the case, then we now have our new building mesh. So what I want to do is this. So we can copy and paste that right in, and that should take care of it for us. So we should be going from 0 by default. When this function gets called, we increment it to 1. Then we check if 1 is greater than building meshes index.num, and if it is, we set it to 0. If not, well, then regardless afterwards, we either increment it or we set it to 0, and then we set it. So let's give that a try. feel like I need to make that greater than or equal to. I'm trying to think if that's going to run me out of the range. My brain's a little slow at the moment. And you can tell I'm being slow because I just tried to rebuild and I forgot I have no way to actually call this at the moment easily from Blueprint. So what I'm going to do is here we have set build mode. I'm going to have another function here for cycle building mesh. Let's go ahead and create that definition. And here we want to do our if builder cycle mesh, just like that. Nothing fancy. And that allows us to easily call it from Blueprint without really any issue. And we could also easily do another check in here. So if we're in the building mode, then we allow it to be switched. Otherwise, we don't. So we're going to end up doing that here next. I just want to make sure everything's good and working, and I don't actually get a crash due to my pathetic excuse of math. All right, so let's go ahead and go to our character, and we're going to drop in one of these inputs. So I want to do scroll wheel down, and I want to do look for cycle building mesh. Compile and save. For mouse wheel, we'll do down. There we go. All right, so on mouse wheel down, we should cycle it. So let's press B, go down one more time, and there's our crash. So we are going out of the range. So my math was wrong in my head. So we want to change cycle mesh to do a check for if it's greater than or equal to. So that way, because it was going from 0, 1, and then it was trying to access index 2. Okay, so we press B, scroll down, and as you can see, we can go back and forth just fine. There's no real problems. Now I want to do one more check. So as you can see now, if I hit play, I'll go ahead and scroll down once and then press B. I'm at the wall. So I only want to be able to cycle it if I'm in the building mode. So that way it maintains my previous setting if I accidentally scroll wheel. So I'm going to do if be in build mode and builder. Let's do our live coding. And this should allow us to easily swipe it down. So I can change between them just fine. Now if I scroll it down one more time without it building in building mode, it doesn't do anything. So now I can place things kind of however I need. However, as you can see, I only have it set up to place the foundations because it's not placing down the mesh itself. It is placing down a mesh from this building class, which is using this foundation to place it. So that's how the foundation index is this kind of setup's working. So if we head over to building.cpp, we have our foundation index or foundation instanced mesh. That is obviously, I don't know why I keep closing everything. That is this guy here using the foundation. We are also going to, if this cannot be found, create one for the for the wall as well. So that's only going to be if it's being attached. So we need to make and figure out a way if it's being attached. So for example, we place down a foundation. We just place down a new one of these actors. Now let's say I walk all the way over here and I place down another one. We just place down a new actor. Now let's say this foundation has been snapped to one of the sockets. Well, when I press F then, I don't want to place down a new actor. Instead, I want to go through and add an instance like I do right here. So we're not going to be creating another actor. We're going to be adding an instance on to the current actor itself. So we have one kind of base. I've already described a lot of this. That's why we have, for example, this function here that we made that allows us to get the socket of whichever index we want to have. So, because this is a tremendous help for us. So, anyways, now that we have the mesh switching set up, I don't know if there's actually one more thing that I'm going to want to do. I'll actually do this in the next video because I want to keep these just kind of separated. I want to add another instance mesh component, and that is going to be for the walls, and this is going to be just for the time being. Eventually I want to have it set up so if the instance is not found, then we're going to be moving these into an array, But if it's not found, then what I want to do is I want to actually create a new instance at runtime. And then, or sorry, a new instance component at runtime, and then add all the other parts to that instance if they are matching. So that's what we're going to be kind of starting to work on in the next, well, the future videos. But for now, I'm just going to leave it here. And hopefully that was useful. If you like what I'm doing and you want to help support me, you can find a link to my Patreon down in the description below, where I have a team deathmatch series just for Patrons, as well as you get early access to nearly all of my videos, such as this one. If you have any questions or anything like that, feel free to join my Discord that's also linked down below, and I'll try to help you out. So I'll see you in the next video.